Hello, welcome back to Rapid Regeneration with me, David Escamilla. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not making any medical claims or claims about diseases. I am somebody who is on a mission. Well, I was on a mission to heal myself and get rid of some horrific health problems and just feeling horrible. And I accomplished that mission by using supplements, cleansing, and by changing what I was eating. And now I'm on a mission to pay that forward and to let people know this information that exists, that fixing these problems is doable, and there's a process, and there's a method to doing it. And I'm on a mission to let people know that, because I think that as of now, this information is not being promoted enough. And so, but for every amazing thing that exists, there's always some downside, or there's always some liability, and we need to be realistic about this, and we need to confront this issue. So, a big question is, when I got into changing what I was eating, and I realized, wow, if I just eat just whole natural foods, it seems like I'm getting so much momentum and energy, and feels like my body is cleansing itself out, and it just felt so right for what I needed at the time, because I was really in a bad place, and as this was going on, I started to get more and more into that. Some people would describe it as an extreme way of eating, where I just was getting more and more. I was eating a lot of fruit, a lot of nuts and seeds, and just a lot of raw foods, whole foods. But and I was getting more and more towards the plant-based way of things. And I would have people asking me, they were concerned. They would say things like, hey, are you getting too much sugar? Or are you getting enough protein? Or are you eating enough variety? When, this is tough. There's a social element to this, which is challenging, which is, as I was going through that, it did create a little bit of a distance between other people, because they would see how I was eating, and they would get a little weirded out, and they would have genuine concern, like, hey, is there going to be an issue with you eating like that? I think the idea of eating so healthy that it's tough for people to relate to that. That's a separate issue. There's other segments around how to deal with other people as you're going through that. There's other segments around where do you get your protein, and are you getting too much sugar? So these things are addressed separately. But the question I think that people really have, people do have a sense that there's some kind of risk or some kind of liability to eating just simple whole ingredients, as opposed to more of a variety of processed foods. And so I think that, the concern is genuine, even though sometimes people are just, being persnickety, just to be difficult. But more often than not, people have a genuine concern, and it may be on either a conscious or subconscious level of awareness. And so the question is that I would like to address, when you're eating a lot of whole foods or raw foods, can this cause shortages, nutrient shortages, or imbalances in the body? Now, for me at the time, the benefits were so great, and it was accelerating me so quickly towards solving my health problems that I didn't care, quite frankly, what kind of imbalance was being created in the body, and I didn't really feel like one was being created. I felt good, but over time, I did have to wonder this question more and more and research it more. And, ultimately, after I got healthy and well, I wanted to make sure that things were sustainable and that I was eating in a balanced way, a sustainable way. And through intuition and through research, here's what I came to realize about the imbalances and shortages. And the short answer is that yes, it can. And I hate to say this, but we can't be naive or overly romantic or overly idealistic. As much as the notion of living off the land is romantic and just in this interchange with planet Earth, that we're living in harmony and that we're using these ingredients to balance ourselves, and that's all we need, basically. That's such a romantic and ideal notion. But we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. And now look at the way that food is produced in the USA and in much of the modern world. Because of the way that big agri grows food and the way that they don't replenish the soil and so many things that are done, the soil quality has just dropped off. This is well documented in the last century. And so the foods that are produced are dramatically lacking in a lot of basic nutrients, including vitamins and minerals. So, this is just the truth of it. So the short answer is yes. And I think that this is why this information is not more obvious to people. In other words, how to solve your health problems and clean out your body and regenerate yourself using raw foods, using especially fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. I think that these foods, which are supposed to be amazing superfoods, I think that they've lost some of their sheen because of the way that they get produced. And so it's not like an amazing, miraculous experience. Now, if you've ever tasted a fruit that's grown in a very special way with a lot of love, not in a big commercial way, but in a very special piece of land, and it's allowed to ripen completely and completely naturally grown, I mean, the experience is unbelievable. It just makes your toes curl. It gives you goosebumps. It sends chills up and down your spine. Makes the little hairs on your arms stand up. Because it's just so ecstatic and sensual and delightful. And so if all raw foods were like this, I think people would realize the power of them, and they would be that much more packed with nutrients, vitamins, minerals. And so because most foods are not like that, yes, there can be a potential shortage and potential imbalance as compared with other foods. And by the way, for those who do well with, eating sort of grass-fed, pasture-raised animal products, if that soil is depleted, then also that animal is going to have subpar nutrition. That meat will. So, and that brings another question as well, which is, if someone is eating just plant-based, is this person at risk for an imbalance? And that's what happened with me, is I went more and more towards the plant-based way. And ultimately I evolved to embrace that. It wasn't really a conscious cognitive choice so much as it was just that's where I was being pulled. That's where I felt like going. But the short answer to that is yes, that if somebody is just eating plant-based as compared with eating animal meats, now you can talk about the differences and the liabilities of eating animal products versus just eating plant-based, that's a separate discussion. But just looking at if you're just plant-based, forgetting about the advantages of doing that, there are some liabilities. In fact, there are nutrients which are much less abundant in plant-based foods and much more abundant in meat and fish and dairy and eggs. And that would include things like vitamin D, vitamin A, choline, vitamin B12, iodine, zinc, and iron, to name a few. And the other thing is that even livestock farmers and dairy farmers, they understand nutrition, and they'll actually supplement their animals in many cases. And that can result in more nutrients being found in the ultimate animal tissue that gets consumed. And the other advantage that people who eat animal products have in some cases is a lot of these animal products have a better amount of omega-3s as compared to omega-6s. Now there's another segment which is detailing that phenomenon. It's very important because it helps control levels of inflammation and balance in the body. But basically, someone who's just eating plant-based, I would say, is more of at risk of having an imbalance of too much omega-6s and not enough omega-3s. It's harder to get that in the plant-based world. There's a lot more animal products that have high omega-3s as compared with plant products. So those are some of the liabilities if you're eating plant-based. And I'm not saying that to say start eating meat or eggs or whatever, if that's not what you want to do. It's important for me to understand personally if you find something so amazing like raw foods that help save my life literally, and if I eat plant-based, I feel great, I'm so energized and all these great things, but I need to know the full picture. I want to understand the full picture, the liabilities, the downsides. What are the shortages? What are the imbalances, if any? And these are the ones that I've found. All right, also consider if you're just into whole foods, whether that's plants or whatever, but if you're just eating whole natural foods, which are unrefined and unprocessed, keep in mind that you could be missing out on nutrients like vitamins and minerals because if you compare that with processed foods, now this is backwards, but in a lot of cases they have more nutrients because the U.S. government and a lot of governments around the world, but specifically the U.S. government, forces food companies to add things to their products. This is called fortified or enriched in a lot of times. And some examples of this are milk. And vitamin D is added to milk, or in some cases vitamin A. A lot of times plant-based milks or pasteurized orange juice, calcium is added. A lot of times eggs are fortified with omega-3 fatty acid. Breakfast cereals get B vitamins added to them and calcium. And how about the entire grain supply? This is going to end up in all your breads, all your flour and vitamins B1, B2, B3, iron, and folic acid, which is a synthetic form of vitamin B9, are added to the entire processed grain supply. How about processed table salt? Gets iodine added to it. How about yogurt, which has sterols and stanols in a lot of cases added to yogurts? So if somebody is eating processed foods, they're eating breakfast cereal with milk for breakfast, and then they're eating sandwiches with all this bread, and they're eating table salt. This is not a healthy way of eating. Table salt is highly processed. In many cases has aluminum added to it. Don't get me started on milk and dairy, and then all the grains and the cereals and the breads. There's other segments that talk about those foods, but these are not regenerative, life force energy, alkalizing foods at all. And so what the government has done is basically created a moral hazard, because it's sending a message, a subconscious message, to somebody who's eating those foods. Their body is going to have some awareness that it's getting these extra nutrients. There's other segments talking about how vitamin D3, how B vitamins are super essential, not to mention iodine. What else? Iron. And so these things are super, vitamin A. These things are super essential nutrients. And so now somebody is going to look at a breakfast cereal and milk, or whatever it is, a sandwich, bologna sandwich, and their body is going to recognize, if I eat that, I'm going to get these nutrients, these real nutrients, from this super unhealthy processed food. So, good job, government. Okay, you created a moral hazard, and now basically you solved the problem, which is, okay, how to get people eating unhealthy foods more nutrition. But now you created another problem, which is you're basically encouraging people to eat these unhealthy foods on a subconscious body awareness level. So, that's just what I've come to realize. So I'm not saying you should switch to eating processed and refined junk foods. Now, this basically brings to mind to me that supplementation is in order in a lot of cases. And again, I used to be romantic. I used to not want to supplement and get all the nutrition from foods. I've come around, I have evolved, and I do think in some cases it's appropriate to supplement. There's other segments that go into supplementation in detail, but just keep this in mind. You have to decide for yourself, especially if you're plant-based, you might want to pay special attention to B vitamins, vitamin D3, vitamin A, iron, zinc. Now there is, and also iodine supplementation, which people can get iodine from eating fish. Also, dairy has iodine from the processing of it. But you can take a green powder. A green powder helps a lot with this. If you take an all natural green powder, it's going to have a lot of these vitamins and minerals in it, because it's grown in a very natural way with good soil quality. And so that powder you can find at rapidregeneration.com/green powder. That can help to cover a litany of sins, or cover for a litany of shortages or imbalances. Just adding that green powder. I add it daily, whether it's to a smoothie or as seasoning. And so the other thing is you might consider supplementation with specific vitamins or specific minerals. You really want to be careful. I know it's possible to create other imbalances in the body because you're taking too much of a supplement. I understand that risk, but I'm looking at the full spectrum analysis. And if you don't supplement, then I do believe there is a risk, whether you're whole foods based, and you're eating even pasture-raised meat or animal products, but you're eating whole natural foods, or if you're plant-based, sort of into the raw foods more. Yes, I think that you have to look at what's the risk there, what's the imbalance there, and decide whether you're going to do something about that. Personally, I figured out how to take certain targeted supplements to address that. And that's covered more in other segments. You can look at the segment about vitamins and minerals. You can look at the segments about vitamin C, probiotics, vitamin D, iodine, B vitamins. So there's some specific ones. The green powder can help a lot to cover a lot of the different minerals, vitamins, but it doesn't do everything. And so that's how I've evolved over time, and I feel better for it, and I like to feel good, and so this has helped me with that, and it's also makes sense intuitively, makes sense logically. Ultimately, the decision is yours, but just understand that when you start to get into this healthier mindset and lifestyle, people are gonna say like, are you getting everything you need? And they're gonna have some concern. And on a conscious level, they may not understand why, but on a subconscious level, they have this real concern. And so I'm just saying, have a strategy for that. At least understand this information, this context, and then decide for yourself what you're going to do about it. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe it is something, in which case look at those other segments about supplementation. Keep educating yourself, keep learning. This is what's not taught in schools. This is information that can keep you alive longer and give you better quality of life and allow you to be all that you can be. So that's what I'm here to help you with that. I'm on a mission. That's the point of rapidregeneration.com. So please keep learning, keep going. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you on the next segment. Bye for now.
For more information, please follow at Rapid Regeneration or visit rapidregeneration.com.